Hi, welcome. It's Hal Halliday from Breakthrough Leadership. This is part 2 of leading remote teams, and today we're talking about why leadership matters. I want to quickly review day 1 from yesterday, or part 1 from yesterday. One, we talked about this sudden change and how we're all learning, so just lean in and don't worry about making mistakes. Just do your best. It's all new to us. 2, never waste a crisis. What are the possibilities for you and your team in these conditions? What could you dream about and possibly do something that wouldn't be done in the status quo? 3, how can you lead yourself? Get the oxygen mask on you. Take care of yourself and your conditions so you can be successful. Your team will notice that, and it'll improve your leadership. 3, we know remote working works, so don't worry about if this experiment is going to work out. It will. And 5, your mindset, is most critical. Your courage, your stability, how you show up for your team is absolutely essential. So now let's move on to why leadership matters. First of all, there's some bad news. When you just look at the data, we know that less than 1/3 of the workforce is engaged. That's before a pandemic and a crisis. So we've got a challenge ahead of us. Here's some really interesting statistics. This is from Gallup and the State of the Global Workplace. The percentage of employees who agree that their leadership has a clear direction for their organization is only 22%. Only 13% believe that their leadership communicates effectively. Wow. 15% believe that their leader helps them feel enthusiastic about the future. Not good. Not good. And lastly, this is a higher number, but still terrible. Only 29% believe that even their leader is engaged. So the data is telling us that there's a leadership crisis and there's an opportunity for us. When you overlay the COVID-19 pandemic onto that, those numbers are going down, right? So we've got to change that. And there's an opportunity for us to be better leaders and to take advantage of this experiment to work on our leadership. And it's going to be centered in communication, which is very critical, as this data pointed out. So let's get after it, because there is some good news. Zenger Folkman, an assessment and research firm in leadership, surveyed 30,000 respondents and found out that there's a certain percentage of leaders who are doing a great job, and that inspiring and motivating leadership makes a difference in engagement and therefore makes a difference in productivity. Specifically, they found that the top 10% of leaders in their study generated a 2x return in net income. So even if you're not responsible for the bottom line, your leadership that engages people and creates productivity improves performance for the company. So let's try and find out what that 10% is doing. We know that poor communication and poor engagement produces poor performance, and better leadership and motivation and inspiration creates better engagement and performance. So it's not simple, but it's not easy, but it is simple. So let's see what we can do to change that. We know then that ineffective leadership gets amplified in a crisis, and that working remotely amplifies ineffective leadership in the negative. So what can we do to be intentional and commit to amplifying the positive things that provide great leadership? Because the status quo won't play in a crisis. So we've got to do better. So I think the key takeaway from today is that your interactions and your understanding of the remote employee situation will determine the engagement level of that employee and team member, which will influence their performance and ultimately their success and happiness. So what should you focus on? Again, let's turn to the data. Gallup surveyed 10,000 people and asked them what leader was the most effective, had the most positive influence in your daily life. Ask yourself that question. Think of a leader that has had that kind of impact on you. And what are the 3 words that best describe what that leader did to help you feel that way? The responses came back in 4 categories: trust, compassion, stability, and hope. That sounds like ingredients that we could use in our leadership right now. So what should you focus on if you want to create trust, compassion, stability, and hope? And by the way, isn't it interesting that it wasn't how to think strategically or negotiation skills or how to be a better presenter or any of those skills? No, it was human skills that we all have and have capacity for: trust, compassion, stability, and hope. So I've got 5 things that I think will help you. 1, your mindset is essential. I said it yesterday. I said it as a preview to this session. I'll say it again. Your mindset, how you show up in your own self-leadership, will be reflected by your team. 2, understand the context of what people are dealing with at home. If you understand that, then you can apply number 3, which is have empathy to that situation. Meet people where they are. This isn't business as usual. They're working from home in a situation they did not choose. It is difficult. So understand and be empathetic to that. That will then allow you to trust. Trust that people want to do their best. Trust that the great employees they were when they worked at the office, they can be the same great employee working from home. And then 5, lastly, over-communicate. That means more frequent, more intentional communication. And by communication, I mean listening. More listening. Listening for needs, listening for challenges, listening for stress. Listening is the most important part of communication when people are working remotely. So here's an assignment to help you lead with trust, compassion, stability, and hope. Talk to each team member on your team individually and ask them, what are they worried about? What's challenging them? What empowered them recently? What is stressing them out? And what's creating confusion for them? Wow. Self-reflect on how you might bring about these or other reactions. And by the way, don't be offended and have your feelings hurt or react negatively if they mention your name as some of the reasons they're facing challenges. This is a magic trick if you'll take advantage of it. If you will listen to people give you feedback that you're part of the problem and accept that and make some changes, your leadership value will go up dramatically. So don't be afraid of that. Okay, the second part of this assignment is to ask each team member to describe the conditions that they're working from home that will help them perform best, and then help them get those conditions. Ask them the concerns they have about their work from home and how they're managing to adapt to the situation. Think with them, problem solve with them to help them be successful. Don't just demand it, work with them and be present with them. If you'll do that in the current environment, your leadership can change and you can be on the right side of the statistics we talked about, the good news. The company and these employees desperately need your leadership. So ground yourself and then meet people where they are. And if you will, without judgment, you will build trust. You will build compassion. You will build stability. Those are the things that will matter. Appreciate you listening today. Please leave any questions, ideas, and what's working in the comments tomorrow. Part 3 will be establishing stability for remote employees. Thanks.